Most buyers think the best way to win a multiple offer situation is simple. Offer the highest price. That's obvious, right? But that's actually not always what wins. In fact, I've seen buyers lose a house even when they offered more money than somebody else. So what actually works? If you're buying a home on the North Shore of Chicago, I'm going to walk you through the strategies buyers are using right now to win multiple offers in today's market. If you're buying a home on the North Shore right now, there's a good chance you're running into multiple offers. It's the sign of the spring market and a low inventory situation. Homes that are priced well are moving quickly. Open houses are busy. Private showings still fill up. And within just a few days, sellers may be choosing between several strong offers. So how do buyers actually win in that situation? Because simply being the highest price is not always the answer. Winning in a multiple offer situation is really about strategy. Preparation comes first. The first step is actually before you even walk into the house. You need to be fully prepared financially. That means having a real pre-approval letter from a trusted lender, not just a quick online pre-qualification. If you're doing cash, you need to show proof of funds. When sellers compare offers, certainty matters. They want confidence that the buyer actually can close. A strong lender letter and a prepared buyer make a huge difference. Number 2, leave room to compete. What does that mean? Another strategy that sounds simple, but many buyers miss it. Let's just say if your budget is $1 million, you should probably be looking at homes closer to $900,000. Why? Because in this market, you need room to compete. Let's just say you fall in love with a house and it's listed at $1 million, and that's already the top of your budget. You may not have the flexibility to go where the market goes. And right now, many homes are selling well over the asking price. I see this happen all the time. Buyers love the house. They want to go $50,000 over the asking, but they can't because they've already started at the very top of their range. Searching slightly below your maximum price gives you option to compete when a home becomes in a multiple offer situation. Number 3, reality check. How competitive can it get? Here's the part that surprises most buyers. Sometimes a house doesn't just get 2 or 3 offers. It might get 6, 7, or even 8 offers. We won't know unless we build rapport with the listing agent. I recently had a listing where the open house was packed. Dozens of groups came through. We also had a steady group of private showings for a few days. And by the offer deadline, the sellers were choosing between several strong offers. When that happens, the strategy becomes very different than a normal negotiation. You're not just trying to buy the house, you're trying to stand out from the rest of the buyers. Number 4, offer terms matter. Another thing buyers sometimes underestimate is how important the offer terms are. Price matters, of course, but sellers are also looking at the strength of financing, the amount of the earnest money deposit, inspection terms, and the timing of the closing. Sometimes the seller will choose not the offer that's the highest price, but the terms that are going to make more certain guarantee as much as possible for that seller that meets their needs. Here's a seller insight moment. Let me give you a little insight into what happens on the seller side. When a seller receives multiple offers, we don't just look at the price. We put all the offers out on the table and we compare the entire picture. Of course, price is important, but sellers are also evaluating the strength of financing, the earnest money, inspection terms, and the timeline. Sometimes the highest offer still loses because another offer feels more reliable. Once a seller accepts an offer, their home comes off the market. They want confidence that this is going to actually close and it's not going to fall apart. Inspection strategy. Another strategy you will sometimes see in competitive situations involves earnest money and inspection. A buyer may agree that a portion of their earnest money becomes non-refundable before the inspection period. So if they back out because of something that comes up in the inspection, then that portion of their money will be back to the seller. And that signals to the seller that they are not going to walk away based on something that comes up in the inspection. It provides more confidence for the seller. Every home has some issues, but the buyer is signaling that they are prepared to move forward. For sellers, that creates reassurance that the deal will hold together. Here's a real example. I had a buyer who approached their first offer very conservatively. The house needed work and they had just started their search. They weren't in a rush, so they made a cautious offer. They lost that one, and then they lost another one. It took a couple of offers before the reality of the market really set in. Once they understood how competitive the environment was, their strategy changed, and that happens often. The market teaches buyers pretty quickly. from the agent's side, that part matters too. On the other hand, I recently worked with a buyer's agent who handled things extremely well. She communicated with me throughout the whole process. She explained her client's position. She asked thoughtful questions about what might make the stronger offer. She asked what was important to the seller. And my job is always to represent my seller's best interest when I'm the listing agent. But when agents communicate clearly and professionally, it often helps create solutions that work for both sides. Then there's walkaway power. Finally, one of the most important things buyers need in a competitive market is walkaway power. You have to know your limit, and you have to be on the same page with your spouse or your partner when buying a house together. Sometimes the best decision is recognizing that the price or the terms have moved beyond what makes sense for you, because the right house will come along again. And when you're prepared and strategic, you'll be ready to compete when it does. So finally, if you find yourself in a multiple offer situation, remember this: winning isn't just about offering the most money. It's about preparation, strategy, understanding what matters most to the seller. When buyers approach the process thoughtfully and with the right guidance, they dramatically improve their chances of getting the house that they really want. And in a competitive market like the North Shore of Chicago, that strategy can make all the difference. If you're planning to buy on the North Shore and want to understand how to compete successfully in this market, I'm always happy to help guide you through the process. I'm Caroline Gao with Real. See you soon.